there are people out there that are, I think, clearly, and I'm not going to name them at all, but are clearly in it for dubious reasons, do not have good intentions, and are more so trying to build up their own personal brand, totally separate of HEX, PulseChain, really educating people. So I'm not trying to start any, this isn't drama what we're about to do. I think this is actually a very worthwhile segment we're going to do, because as this market picks up, so PulseChain's only been out for 6 weeks. As you know, Ewok and everybody watching, another year into this market, if not 2, we're going to have tons of people coming into this ecosystem and wanting to find content about it. Like, there are people right now that are going to be investing in HEX and PulseChain that have never even heard about HEX before yet, and, kudos to them. They're going to be able to buy everything at these great prices right now. But, I think it's important to point those people in the right direction as far as like where to learn some of this stuff, and where to go, to learn maybe like tutorials about HEX, tutorials about pulse chain bridging, all these little things that maybe we take for granted because we do them all the time and kind of know what we're doing. And I'll be honest, Ewok. Now, you and I have different experiences because you were really a HEX OG. So you were watching Richard Hart from the get-go. I mean, you were watching Richard Hart before HEX was a thing, when
Right.
it was HEX, Bitcoin HEX, So what I want to caution some people that may be new and are maybe watching a stream like this right now, because this is something that I went through with the HEX ecosystem, is there's a lot of directions that you can go to for content on this. And I do hate that word. Content makes it seem like just kind of vapid crap that people are releasing, which some of it is. But you want to make sure you're going places where you really trust the people that you're watching, and you believe that their intentions are good, because there's a lot of people out there, and this isn't unique to HEX or PulseChain, but that are making content that is specifically tailored, and edited in a certain way. And I'm not even going to criticize clickbaity, because hey, we need to get the clicks. I mean, like, if we don't make certain thumbnails, people won't even come and watch your content,
Right.
even if it is good material. So you do need to have that. So I'm absolutely not hating on that. Hate the game, not the player. But or hate the player, not the game, whatever. But there are people out there that are, I think, clearly, and I'm not going to name them at all, but are clearly in it for dubious reasons, do not have good intentions, and are more so trying to build up their own personal brand, totally separate of HEX, PulseChain, really educating people. Whether that is to get paid through YouTube, which we do, it's a paltry wage, and we're way more excited about investing in this ecosystem, but get paid through YouTube, get paid through their courses, whatever it is. You need to be able to identify those people, because there are a lot of them. And I will tell you too that, like, when I was on, like HEX Twitter at the beginning, there's a lot of, this isn't a blanket to anybody, but there's a lot of cheerleaders that maybe aren't necessarily like offering any real like stuff to learn. So I think it's important to focus on the people that I have discovered, and I'm going to kick it to you too, Ewok, to name yours, but who I think are like the people that are must follows for learning this stuff. And I have the utmost confidence are the people that have good intentions and really believe in this notion of crypto self-sovereignty, and really love the stuff that Richard Hart has built. So for me, just to name some, obviously Johnny Chaos, he's not an actual streamer, but that guy may be the pinnacle of anybody to follow for actual good information. And, he's been in a pissy mood lately, and I don't blame him at all, but, he will hop on streams occasionally. He was just on with Matty Allen, another guy that I would put in there as well. Obviously, he was just on there the other night. Randy Hilarski, obviously your friend Sami, who's just taken everything by storm the last few months. RG3, who we mentioned was on that stream today. I am a fit of My Life is Awesome, Coach Lit. He was doing some good stuff today. Obviously, Crypto Coffee, probably the premier place to go for actual education on things. I like Big Pep streams. I've just kind of been turned on to Ben Cage, who was on that stream today. His stuff is good. Axis Alive for different charting. There are more, but I think it's really good to highlight those people, because I think you can go down a couple different lanes in this ecosystem where like I said, there are some people, not unique to PulseChain, that are in it for different reasons than to actually educate. And I really trust and admire all those people. So I'd like to hear some of your thoughts.
Well, I probably echo a lot of those people. So, we agree on that sentiment with the people that you mentioned. The one thing I wanted to state though is if you see somebody coming out with a bunch of courses or just advice, pay me for my time. You definitely want to make sure they know what the hell they're talking about.
Mhm.
As far as crypto coffee goes, his course is probably one of the cheapest for the best value.
Right.
I know DCC has a course out that they have a course, but they really branch out into a lot more, a wider spectrum of stuff. So it's a little bit different. I mean, if you just kind of focused on Hex content, Richard Hart community wise, Crypto Coffee's course is probably the best value that you can get, right? I think it's
Yeah.
200 bucks, and you learn from start to finish just about everything you need to know. So, you know, be careful with the people that you're paying for their time, and make sure that they've been around for a while. As far as I'm concerned, some of these people are not old enough to be paid for advice because they haven't been around the block enough times. Maybe not even enough cycles to see crypto. This might even be their first cycle, and they get a little bit of viewership, and then they start charging for time. I don't agree with that. If you want to make good content and put it on YouTube and get paid that way, fine, great. But uh, start marketing yourself, and you're technically now offering financial advice, and you got to be very
Yeah.
careful, because if you tell somebody to do one thing and especially when you pick a side, right? I'm gonna bring it up
Yeah.
right now. The EHEX PHEX thing. If you tell someone to pick a side, you better be right, or you're giving financial advice. And if you're wrong, you have a 50% chance of being wrong. So just be careful. I hate that. Nothing more than thanks, Johnny. Nothing more than
Yeah.
somebody telling somebody which side they should be on. As far as I'm concerned, your safest play is be on both sides, right? And I know Johnny said this more than once, but the sum of both coins are going to be more than just one, and especially if you pick the wrong one.
Yeah.
So the sum of both is going to be just as you're better off going that route. So I don't know. That's my rant on that, and I don't want to. Like I said, I'm not bringing up names. People know who I'm talking about if they are paying attention, but
Yeah.
I'd rather not give any more attention to them than needed. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you 100%. It reminds me, I put this in my notes just because I thought it was funny, but it kind of reminds me for any wrestling fans of the old WCW, WWF comparison back in the day, prior to when WWE just obviously acquired everything. But those two organizations, it reminds me of that because like the clickbaity, heavily edited. And here's the really shitty thing about some of this heavily edited stuff. Like I obviously go back and edit snippets of our show and put them out as clips, and they're pretty clean edited. There's not a lot of weird stuff in them or anything like that. But it's also you and I who are like real life friends that know and trust each other. There are people out there that have a guest on that comes on as a courtesy, and then they go back and edit that guest's material to make it seem like they said something they really didn't.
mhm.
And that is, I mean, I would have a bone to pick with that person if you were doing that to me and I was a guest on your show, frankly. So yeah, there's some of that going on. But anyway, the WCW thing. So WCW was basically like, let's sign all these like, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage. We're gonna get the Ultimate Warrior back, Ric Flair, like all these huge names. And they were just a shit organization. They didn't have good writing. Everything was terrible. Those guys were all past their prime and everything. Whereas WWF didn't have all those names, but then just kind of built themselves up with, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and they had the actual good product. So that may be a terrible comparison, but that's just what I'm saying between kind of the well-oiled machine hex channels versus the ones that are just trying to take your money. So,
Yep.
yeah, and that's not to say there's many of that. Saying take your money is probably a bit strong, but I don't want people thinking there's all these landmines out there, and anybody training about this stuff is probably a net positive at the end of the day. I would just recommend people be careful, and hopefully the good names that we mentioned, are ones that people will go to as they enter this market. So,
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. And Johnny said it perfectly here. If you hold both, you have a 100% chance of holding the right one. If you pick one, you have 50%, 50/50 chance of picking the wrong one. So that's, but either way, the sum of both, even if you had decided back when Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash split, if you decided to be on the Bitcoin Cash side and sell all your Bitcoin because you thought Bitcoin Cash was going to take over, imagine how bad you would feel right now to have a big bag of Bitcoin Cash and no Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
position that you could easily put yourself in. So think about it that way. But if you kept both, you have both your Bitcoin Cash and your Bitcoin, and you're better off. You didn't lose. So